One thing I'm also passionate about, beyond fighting forces of hatred, ignorance, and fascism is creative writing. It dates back to my days in high school. I was originally, as a young guy, of course, fascinated with Quentin Tarantino, his dialogue, his gore, obviously, brilliant man. Odd duck, kind of like me, but a brilliant man, no doubt. But now with, all this stuff in America, but also this situation, you see obviously extremism on the right and obviously on the left. Not so, I'm obviously more of a left-wing man, especially socially. So I tend to probably turn a little bit more of a blind eye to the extreme left versus the extreme right. Just like if someone's a Republican, they may be more willing to disavow and just, stomach some of the things that far right does, because it is inherent bias, no doubt. However, obviously, right now, I like to, write and obviously just think about creative things. Now, especially in regards to espionage and extremism. And obviously the situation is extremely troublesome, whatever the context. I could see it, culminating if it got worse. Ideally, I go back to work and maybe rebuild my life, decide where I go from there. But I could obviously see it get to the point where it's, drummed up enough where I have to leave the country. Say I go to somewhere where I can hide. Obviously, Switzerland is obviously more expensive. You need to have a backer if you did that. You go to some places in South America are, less likely to, hunt you down, But say I go, for the sake of saying, I go to South America because it's more budget friendly for a young guy, and I'm hiding in the Andes somewhere. Obviously, let's say, for example, that this gets worse and it's able to, ruin me to the point where I just flee the country. But unbeknownst to me, while I'm in hiding in South America in the Andes Mountains, the situation, got worse, took a different turn. Gavin Sims, his dad, and Renier are all kind of neo-Nazi types. Now, in this scenario, Renier is more keen on, the German side, the Nazism, more interested in the subject itself, the folklore, the German side of it. While as Sims, his dad, whatever, are more interested in just the idea of control, fascism, representation of the strong alpha male, stuff like that. They're more interested in obviously partnering with that cause to fulfill their endeavor, which is obviously in America that's an extreme far right religious run country. But that will create a schism between the Renier's faction and the Sims side faction later on. But obviously what happens, I'm hiding in the Andes. I'm just kind of upset about it. To quote myself, America let the door hit me on the ass on the way out. I just was done with it, upset, obviously disillusioned. But it's comes to light that the government's turned a blind eye to what Sims and Renier and everybody's doing. See, before the first or the Second World War, obviously Hitler was in power in Germany. Before America, even Britain, were at war with them. And FDR was president. So in this scenario, FDR had built a secret telephone to Berlin, just in case. Because at that point, they didn't know everything and they weren't sure what was going to happen. They obviously wanted to have, I guess, a possibility to communicate with London, with, Moscow, with, obviously the capitals, Berlin, just in case, have all avenues open. But say, obviously, when the war broke out, they covered up that phone, but it stayed in the White House. Just covered up. And obviously, the plan of what to do is France is a secular nation by legislation. They want to destroy France and make it look like America did it. The idea is they're going to call and confuse, the president and make him do a nuclear strike, but they're going to hack in and make it not target Germany, but target France. fall, several hundred miles short of, where it's supposed to go. Because what they want it to look like is that Nazis have taken over and they need to do a strike on Berlin. So Renier, Sims, obviously Gavin go to Berlin. Dennis stays back. Ideally, to trump up support once there is a war between America and the rest of the world. He's going to make it, well, America did really struck France because France is the enemy by not believing in God and religion. They're secular, so that's why we nuked France, when really the nuke was meant to hit Berlin, based on Sims, Renier's manipulation and their efforts to find that back door to the White House. So, obviously they travel to Berlin, they find it takes some work, and I'm approached by a vigilante watchdog group that operates in Europe. They see me, they find a shell of a man that I once was. Alcohol bottles where I'm living, and they say, Mr. Wagner, this is a chance that you can make things better. It might not be as great as you want it to be 8-9 years ago, sir, but this is a chance you can make it better. And obviously I say, well, America hit me on the way out, man. I have no more faith. My heart belongs where I am now. And they say, well, it's the chance you can save your country and show there's a better way than extremism and attacking secularism and science and decency and empathy. And obviously they convinced me to go to cut my hair, dress a little more not unkempt, and go to Berlin. So they convinced me to go to Berlin. Obviously, what ends up happening is that schism I talked about between, the Sims and Renier. Renier obviously finds out he was played, and I'm in Berlin doing footwork, trying to figure out where they are, where they found this back door. I'm able to locate it, and at that point, Renier's faction and Sims' faction are basically on the hots. They're pointing their guns at each other and fighting, arguing about it, when it was revealed that the Sims side wants, like I said, America to be a religious, right-wing, strict lockdown state, where Renier makes it more about the romanticizing of the past, the Nazism, Hitler, the Reich, all that. And obviously they're pointing at each other, and my bet is to let them fight it out. Whoever prevails, I'll have to deal with them. But what they did was they called the White House, and they were able to make it ring, and they broke down some of the drywall in the White House and found the old phone. And Biden answered it, and it was Renier speaking German, basically, frantically, and they get a translator, and they basically say that Berlin is now under control of the Nazis, and we're going to send a nuke to, New York. And that obviously makes Biden very scared, because New York is heavily populated. That would probably kill more than just 8 million people. The fallout and everything, it would be horrible. And, obviously niftily, Sims and etc., their computer work blocked all intelligence coming in. Because obviously before they do anything like that, they'd want to ensure that that's the truth. They're not going to make a mistake. The Secretary of State is Blinken. They probably would call in Homeland Security. They'd want to know if that's the truth, if it's not just trying to get to launch a strike to start something. Everything's blocked, so that obviously scares them more, so they authorize a strike on Berlin. But the hacking has also changed the targeting in the computer, so they want it to go to France. And the only way that they can be, deactivated is in the White House. So what needs to happen is I'm successfully able to, fight off. It's basically Renier, one of Renier's guys, two of Sims' guys, and Sims, they're still, fighting it out, but they know that it's going to destroy and hit France. I'm obviously able to, maneuver the situation to get them to kill more of each other, and then it's down to his Sims and a wounded Renier. And Renier is sitting there speaking German, saying Heil Hitler and stuff. I just shoot him. And then I say, what you need to do is you need to unhack all this stuff, give America their eyes so they can see and stop this strike. And he's like, fuck you, you abomination, faggot, fuck. And then I shoot him in the leg. And I'm eventually able to get him to order his hackers in Russia to stop this from happening. And then the strike is aborted. Obviously the rocket propulsion stops, and it's able to fall in the ocean before anything happens, before it hits France. And at home in Rogers, Dennis Sims is in his suit. He's prepared to go out and give a speech. Ironically, as cameras waiting, his hope is that France was nuked, and he could say America attacked France because they don't believe in God. They're a secular nation. They had it coming. And at that point, FBI and CIA are there, and they knock on his door. And Sam, being an egomaniac, he says, "Are you here to deliver me to my speech?" There's no speech to give, Mr. Sims. There's no war. France is not in rubble. You're under arrest.